And now we're going to welcome up Veronica Kornberg, a San Francisco Bay Area resident, received the Morton Marcus Poetry Prize and the 2025 Wandering Aengus Book Award in Poetry. Her work has appeared in numerous journals, including the Alaska Quarterly Review, Poet Lore, Catamaran, Rattle, Indiana Review, Plume, Rhino Poetry, Calyx, and Beloit Poetry Journal. Veronica co-founded a long-running poetry book club on the San Francisco Peninsula and is a peer reviewer for Whale Road Review. At home in Pescadero, she happily explores the tidepools and plays in her large coastal scrub garden. Strange Gift is her debut poetry collection. Let's welcome Veronica.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shauna and Monica, and also the cafe. This is absolutely fantastic. I feel so lucky to be here. Poetry is obviously strong, doing well in Petaluma. My book, I would say, the general arc of it is the journey to create a home for oneself in the world. And so I'll start with a poem of childhood, which is about a job I had as a teenager as an elevator operator. I don't know how many of you can even remember elevator operators. And it is titled Beauty. I spent Saturdays operating an elevator in the last remaining department store in downtown Trenton, a neighborhood of singed bricks and boarded windows. It was 1970. I was 14. A Dresden doll, said one powdered woman to her friend. I scissored the brass cage shut, thumbed the button up or down. The days stretched thin, and hardly anyone came in. I sang into each echoing floor. Fragrance, men's shoes, lingerie, lingerie. So luscious, the tongue lingering against the front teeth. Reading was forbidden, so I taped a Cezanne postcard above the red emergency button. Something to look at. On his way up to customer service, the manager said to take the picture down. I stared implacably at the blank green wall as he shifted from one polished wingtip to the other, until the doors slung wide again, releasing him to plastic-wrapped mattresses under fluorescent lights. Late afternoons, the cross-dressers appeared, joyful angels in bright chiffon, cinched waists, and man calves above slingback heels. Laughter rich and streaked with ruby. A glued-on fingernail touching the corner of a welling eye, thick-lashed and lined. Each week they teased, which floor for the ladies' room? Isn't it awful to get your period when you're not expecting it? I didn't have mine yet, but nodded mutely, smoothed my skirt with sweaty palms. Honey, they cooed, don't worry. Not long before I left for good, two women rode with me in silence, standing arm in arm. At the appointed floor, the doors stood wide, but they did not move. "Oh, Ma," said one, "I wish you could see this girl." She hesitated then. "Do you mind if my mother touches your face?" I stood still as a rabbit, while the old woman's hands found my temples, flowery scent on the cuff of her sleeve, the quick, practiced touch over my cheekbones and chin. "Beautiful," she said. Then in measured steps, they walked away, and disappeared, taking with them some version or vision of me that had never existed before. Someone I kept hoping I could someday learn to be. My next poem is about my dad. I have a couple poems in the book about my dad, and he was quite a character. He spoke his own idiosyncratic language with made-up words, and the whole neighborhood knew what these made-up words meant, and he absolutely adored shoes, so I had a big shoe presence from him in my life. Brogues. Each Saturday night, my father lined up 18 church shoes on the newspaper pages laid out on the dining room table, opened his large tin of polishes, waxes, creams, and brushes, and set to work, smiling his private smile and whistling through the wide gap between his front teeth. I kissed him good night to the scent of blacking. He favored a shoe well worn, polished, and resoled, the leather conditioned, box calf, full grain, peccary, cordovan, made of connective tissue from a horse's backside, and come down centuries via the Spaniards of Cordova. Galoshes, wingtip, monk strap, words delivered from his lips with pleasure and fanfare. Like the made-up nonsense words, he roared near nightly. As the toast burned or his barouche failed to start, as water rose through the basement floor or a ladder tipped away from the window. Brilt, he would yell, brilt me back, nipchul. We always laughed, but he was nervous, with one malformed ankle, a limp, 7 kids, and a bad ticker. One evening, he worried a hole in his pant leg, circling and circling one fingertip. When I lit out alone for California, he stood in the driveway, holding my mother's elbow and a basket of items he thought I might need. I left most of it with him. I left most of it with him. Tiny prayer book, sewing kit, a bottle of Lily of the Valley. He offered so much. I took so little. Years later, after he died, I carried home his black and white brogues, the old white polish caked deep into cracks, line of tiny holes along toes and sides, swooping across the instep, brogues for treading the boggy places, punched full of weep holes to let the water drain. Thank you. So that is actually the origin of brogues, and the punched holes in shoes is to let the water evaporate so that your shoes could dry out. A very work-a-day kind of shoe. This next poem is called Improvident, and it is about finally finding the physical place that is really the place of my heart. It is our cabin in Pescadero. Improvident, that dream, a small cottage with windows facing the Pacific and, wait for it, priced within reason. Of course, there were none. So for 25 years, we simply drove the twisty mountain route through a green welter of redwoods to bottom out along the coast among scattershot barns and rusty propane tanks, to end up at the state beach, shield our ham and cheese from sand-laced wind, Eventually, our quest was more idle banter than actual search, though we still nosed into abandoned shacks and tire-tracked lanes, dead-ending in junk heaps. What more could we want? Until one foggy day, we spied a peeled and faded sign set back among overgrown cypress, a footpath through a dense thicket of dead pines, and perched on its crumbling edge, a tiny house, crusted with orange lichen, brown algae, and termite wings. The redwood water tank, bowed and bleeding water. Within weeks, our nest egg was gutted. We were out chopping dead trees and fiddling with a pump bladder, fielding chiropractors and pricing used tractors. We chimed the names of everything around us: rackline, blackberry, wentletrap, woolly sea daisy, and gumboot chiton. We took it all on faith, as is. Below us, the violent sea broke its beautiful teeth on the rocks. And this poem I wrote in response to a call from our poet laureate, California poet laureate, Lee Herrick, to write about California. It is called Winter Wallop. The mountain fell into the road fell into the sea, cypress fell along the fence line, and I into reverie. Blue sailboat dissolving in haze, scent of black sage on my sleeve, rocks clacking in the backwash. I fell into the romance of everything changing, the way California is always shifting, cracking open new veins of gold, grinding out high peaks. It did not feel like loss, but a wheel turning. I felt this, even as my friend lingered in his blue cotton gown, amid mists of antiseptic wash, amid the mechanical whoosh. Even then, I studied the landscape and spoke of love, though love fell on me like loss. So I had, in this place in Pescadero, this place of my heart, I had one day a stress test, and there was this graph that I had seen. And then I was looking on my bird app to find out a bird, and it was purple finch, and it had a graph of the call. And then I looked up in the sky, and there were five clouds in this striated pattern. And this is a poem that came out of that. Stress test. Red is the crest of the purple finch, and raspberry red my heart, a flittering hanky, snagged on pine branches, and long the song of the purple finch, laddered long like the stuttered start of the heart, just prior to rising. There, in the sky, 5 purple clouds warble in the darkening inside me, an arpeggio drawn from the chords until silent. The long land and purple trees, all reaching toward the beat to follow, the flutter of blood, the bone. And for my last poem, I'm going into the ecstatic mode, which is not that unusual a mode for me. I've had people remarking on that my whole life. Not sort of like, I'll have what she's having. what the ocean dreams at night. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. That's Rumi. How can I explain to you that one night I lay face up on a bench beneath rivers of stars and forgot about the sea murmuring below me at the base of the cliff? Only breathed its rhythm, the earth's pull, the moon's lift. Can I tell you how the sea entered me, unburdened of purpose, riddled with travelers and hunters, shadows and chandeliers spinning in its currents? Though I am smaller than the smallest speck in the largeness of galaxies and time, I held an ocean inside the cavity of my chest, in the glass vial of my mind. Sea, heaven, earth, porch, and singing. There was singing in the deep drifts, I tell you, singing.